Hi, my name is Sasha. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my best books of 2019 video. I am very nervous to film this video because first of all, I have very bad book memory and it's hard for me to remember what I even liked about what I read. And second of all, I can't say things when I like a book. Like, it's hard for me to describe what it is I like unless I write it down, like, right after I finish. So this is going to be a fun video. So, I have about 9 books here. No, 10. I have 10 books here. And not all of them I gave 5 stars. To me, a book is one of the best books if I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I don't always give, full 5 stars to books I really enjoyed. There are some things I'll take a star rating, like half a star rating off for, like with, spoiler alert, The Bride Test by Helen Huang. I just couldn't give it 5 stars for some reason, but it's on this list, so let's get into it. The first book that I really enjoyed was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I think this is the first book by Holly Black I've ever read, and it's the first in the series. I know I'm really way behind in this series, but I just loved this. It was all of the characters are just a mess. Like, they're all morally gray and just messy and awful, and I loved that because we don't get a lot of that in YA books. Like, characters are usually put into black and white boxes of good or bad, and that just didn't happen in The Cruel Prince, and it was just really nice. And also Elfhame, which is I believe what the fairy world is called, has such an interesting, like, set of rules and, like, regulations and so much red tape, and it created a lot of good political intrigue, and I love political intrigue. So this book, like, really did it for me. Like, that was my jam. So that's why it's on this list. The second book that I put on this list is The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. This is about, I just realized I didn't explain what The Cruel Prince is about, but you probably heard of it. This is about Romy, who was launched into space with her parents, or her parents gave birth to her on a spaceship, and they died, so she's alone in space, and she's basically just communicating with Earth through, like, a therapist, and then one day they tell her that someone's going to be sent into space to kind of accompany her, and she gets really excited, and it goes from there. I love this book. I love alone in space books. Like, that's one of my favorite tropes, is the alone in space trope. And this was, like, so good. It's one of the most terrifying things I can imagine, which is probably why I love reading about it. And this book just delivered. There's also so many twists and turns in this book. Like, intrigue and space is such a good combination. Like, having, like, mysteries and, like, while you're, like, in this, like, vacuum, this black dark vacuum where you can't escape, it's like a locked door mystery, kind of. I think that's the thriller term for it. It was excellent, and I just loved it. The next book on this list, I read these last 3, like, back to back. So, like, I started out 2019 with, like, 3 of the best books of my reading year, so, like, that was great. But the third book on here is Cersei by Madeline Miller. This was so beautiful. This is the first book I read by Madeline Miller. I know she wrote The Song of Achilles, and I do plan to get to that, but this was just so gorgeous. Like, the writing is stunning. And it's kind of about Cersei coming into her own and rejecting, like, Cersei is born or like made. I don't know if I can't remember if gods are like born or made, but she's born and she's constantly told she's lesser than and constantly spat on by like all of her family, and she just says like fuck that and goes and lives on an island and like does whatever she wants. And that was like that's kind of what I want to do. I just want to go live on an island and do witchcraft and like say fuck everyone. There's warning for sexual assault and rape in this book, but it's done so well, and I really loved it. The next is two books. So the first book is the Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This was I buddy read this with Chrissy from the Return Cart, and we had such a great time reading this. Like, it was so cute, and like the smut was really good. Like, I'm not a big fan of smut in books because I think it can be done like really poorly, and a lot of the time it is done really poorly. But it was just really sexy, and like I like shipped Michael and Stella so hard. I wanted them to be together like the whole time. And the miscommunication plot did not bother me. I don't have problems with miscommunication plots most of the time. And they just didn't, even though they didn't talk to each other, I was like still rooting for them. And just Michael's family was so great and fantastic. And the fact that there's not only Vietnamese representation, own voices representation, but own voices autism representation made me really happy. And so yeah, the next book is kind of the companion to this, and it is The Bride Test by Helen Huang. And I loved this. I read this on audiobook. The audiobook was so good. The narrator was fantastic. I don't know who the narrator is. I wish I looked that up before I started this video, but it follows Kai and Esme, and they were so cute. Like, they were super cute, and I shipped them so hard. Like, I wanted them to be together the whole time, and Kai also has autism, so there's still autism and Vietnamese representation in these books, so that obviously was like a plus for me, but I just don't read a lot of romance, and this and the Kiss Quotient were just such good romances and made me want to read more, and I loved it. It was fantastic. The next book is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. I know a lot of people did not like this book, and that is absolutely fine with me. I really, really enjoyed it. First of all, I haven't read a romance between two girls in a YA in so long. Like, I can't remember the last time that I read that before this. And the relationship, like, between the two girls is my favorite. Like, it's done so good. And, like, because they're in such a contentious situation where they, are kind of being offered up to this disgusting king and being made to do like horrible things while also trying to fight back, and just like having these two like fighters, like warriors, fall in love with each other was so gorgeous. It was such a gorgeous romance, and I can't wait to read Girls of Storm and Shadow, I believe it's called. Not only that, I just liked the world building. I thought it was really good. I don't have better adjectives to use. I just use good all the time. So I hope everyone is okay with that. The world was just, it was so good. Next is probably my favorite book of the year, and that is Saco Girls by Claire Legrand. I can't even describe how close this book is to my heart. Like, it was such a unique experience reading this and like falling in love with it, and I just adored it. Like all the girls, Val, shit, I can't remember any of their names because I have terrible memory. I remember Val. Anyway, um, all they're all unique. They're all just wonderful, and the you know there's such good themes in this book. Like, please read Saco Girls. Like that's my one wish, is that everyone reads Saco Girls. Even if they don't like it, I just want to know that you read it, because Claire Legrand is such a good writer and so underappreciated, and Saco Girls like should have won all the awards, but whatever. Like, just please read Saco Girls. Next is one that I didn't realize, like, when I was going through my year, I was like, yeah, this book was really good. And that's Severance by Ling Ma. This is about a character whose name I also forgot. I've forgotten all of the names of the characters in these books. And a plague. She lives in New York, and she works at this publishing company that publishes Bibles. But there's this plague that kind of sweeps the world, and she gets caught up in it and like tries to survive. It was excellent. It was like a character study of the main character, and just how complicated and like how nuanced she was, and her relationship with her parents, and her will to survive, and like I I like it took me a while to realize like how great this book was, but it really deserves to be on this list because it was so good. Next on my list is Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shannon McGuire. This is following Jack and Jill from the first book, except it's like the prequel story of how they got to the Wayward Children's Home, whatever it's called. And it was so good. I love like there's in the Wayward Children universe, there's a lot of worlds, and some of them are like crazy and made of candy, which I like. And some of them are oceans, and some of them are like, anyway, the world they come from is like a Frankenstein inspired kind of world. I hated Frankenstein, side note, but the whole like aesthetic of like bringing people back to life, science, dark science, and like vampires and shit is like so my thing. Like, that's why I was so disappointed in Frankenstein, I think, is because it didn't give me that dark aesthetic that I was hoping for. But this, like, really did. And it showed, like, parts of Jack and Jill that we didn't get in the first book that just developed them more and made them more interesting. And there was, like, it was excellent. I just really loved it. Last is a book that I didn't think would be on this list, but it's A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. When I set out to read this, I really didn't know if I was going to like it. But it was so easy to read, and it had such a good message that I was like, wow. Like, and I think I should read more classics because I obviously don't know what I'm talking about when I say, oh, I'm not going to like that book. I obviously like classics. Like, Charles Dickens was not hard to read. It was just a great book. So, yeah. So that's my list of best books of 2019. I feel like I did a terrible job trying to describe these books, but, you know, c'est la vie. That's life, you know. When you have no brain, you have like 2 brain cells. And yeah, so tell me down below in the comments, did you read any of these? What did you think of them? What were your best books of 2019? If you've put out a video of your best books of 2019 and I haven't watched it, tell me to watch it so that I can find out what your favorite books were. because I just love, these are my favorite kind of videos to watch, and just like, they're also the hardest to make, I guess, for me. But yeah, that's all for me for now, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!